You are listening to This Week in Clown World with Ben and Hobbs, so sit back, relax, take your black pill, and enjoy the show.
We are here. Yes, we're here.
Yes, there we are. Good evening, fellow harmful extremists. It's once again time for another episode of This Week in Clown World with Ben and Hobbs. He's Ben, I'm Hobbs, you're in Clown World. Honk honk, welcome.
The
How we doing?
pre-show brought to you by Sleeping in the Trenches, World War I edition.
Or Ukraine edition. It's really hard to tell.
I think they're releasing that one next week. The Ukraine. So we'll play that for everyone. Boy, that just leads us right into the first story, I guess.
Which is?
Biden. You can't talk about Ukraine without talking about Biden, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Like where to even begin? You know, there's been a lot of stuff coming out in the last couple of weeks regarding all of the malfeasance in the Biden White House and in the Obama White House when he was the vice president.
Mm-hmm. Even just this week. I mean, I've been swamped at work. I was like, hey, what should we talk about in our pre-show? And you said Hunter Biden's plea deal. And I started watching videos on that, reading some news stories, and what a shit show.
Mm-hmm. So last week, it was reported that they were going to have this like sweetheart plea deal. Mm-hmm. And he was going to plead guilty to some tax evasion misdemeanors. And because he was going to plead guilty to that, he was going to get a deference on a federal gun charge. He lied on a 4473 about being a user of controlled substances, which is a felony. He obtained a gun illegally, and there are plenty of pictures that came to light on his laptop of him holding the gun with drug paraphernalia all around him. So it's pretty open and shut.
You know, speaking of the gun charges, do you mind if I play a quick clip of pertaining to the Hunter Biden gun charges?
Be my guest.
So you'll like this. Have you seen this?
Probably.
President Biden has spent most of his political career working on gun laws, on gun reform. Does he believe that someone who is charged with possessing a firearm illegally should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law?
So here I'm going to be, I think I know where this question is going, and I'm just going to continue to say, as it relates to the case that we're seeing in Delaware, I'm just going to not speak to that.
There we go. She's
it
not
is
going
an
to speak
independent
to it.
matter.
Who would have guessed?
This is up for the department.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I was saying, he was going to get the deferment on the federal gun charge. It is a felony, so he's pleading guilty to 2 tax-related misdemeanors in order to get off of that felony gun charge. Well, fast forward to this week, and the judge in the case, a gal named Norika or something like that, mm-hmm. She's going through the plea deal, and she's like, "Hold up! Oh, no, okay. Before we get to, let me rewind a little bit."
Sure.
So one funny thing was last week, Hunter's lawyer was caught up on a balcony smoking a bong. So that's one thing. And then sometime the other day, this genius, the bong smoker, I'm assuming, mm-hmm. Decided that it would be a good idea to call the court clerk overseeing the case, claiming to be a member of the prosecution, and told the court clerk, hey, that evidence that we put into the trial, yeah, we've decided to strike that. So just let that sink in a little bit. This lawyer...
How did they catch him? The caller ID or what?
Probably. It had to be something really stupid. You know, this is something that I kind of like listened to tangentially while I was doing something else today. But yeah, so this genius called up. He's a member of the defense.
Mhm.
Calls up the court clerk and says, "Hey, this is such and such with the prosecution. Hey, you know that big bunch of evidence that we submitted last week? Yeah, we decided we're not going to use it after all. So would you please strike it from the record?" Dumbass.
He probably made this call after he took a big old bong rip.
Yeah, he had to have. It's like, you got to be on. Well, it's Hunter Biden's legal team, so he's probably hire a Tallahassee DUI lawyer. Probably. They're probably all on crack. But anyway, so fast forward to today, or rather yesterday, and this judge is going through the plea deal, and she's looking through it, and there was these provisions in there, and apparently they thought that they would sneak this fast one through, that part of the plea deal gave Hunter Biden immunity from prosecution from federal crimes in perpetuity.
That's like an old school get out of jail free card from Monopoly right there.
Yeah, so she's
forever and for everything, apparently.
Yeah, and so the judge is like, "Hold on, what is this?" And they're like, "I don't know."
Well, that was on the original, wasn't it?
And they thought that they would sneak this in, and like everything is just falling apart. So she's like, you were going to plead guilty to these misdemeanor tax charges, and in exchange for that, you were going to be immune from prosecution of federal crimes forever. That's what you want to do.
I'll plead guilty to something to get that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, she's like, "No, this ain't happening. This isn't happening at all."
Any misdemeanor they want, I'll plead guilty to get that get out of jail free card. Don't
Right.
pay my taxes, no worries.
So she's like, "You know what I'm talking about, right?" There was something like really embarrassing happened. That's I guess the lawyer like either said that he didn't know what she was talking about or didn't know that it was in there or something. So the whole thing just fell apart. And now she's like, "How are you pleading now?" And he's like, "Not guilty," because his guilty plea just there's nothing to it. He can't do what he was trying to do. So now he's pleading not guilty, and they're going to go to a trial. Now this is where the Biden administration gets into a bit of a pickle. And on one hand, Joe can use his powers as the president and issue a full pardon for his son.
Oh, I'm sure he will if it comes down to that. And they'll just get tanked.
Yeah, it is his prerogative, but it will damage him politically.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, he could allow this to go to trial, and a lot of bad things are going to come to light. Particularly, one that seems like it's going to be a slam dunk is something called FARA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act, where anybody in American politics who is lobbying on behalf of a foreign power must register with the federal government as a foreign agent. Not like a James Bond secret agent type foreign agent, but like in this instance, Hunter Biden was lobbying on behalf of Burisma, the Ukrainian energy company. He was lobbying on behalf of CRFC, the Chinese energy company. You know, he was doing a lot of work as a lobbyist for foreign-owned companies, but he
on his dad.
Mm-hmm. But he never registered under FARA. But the thing that's crazy is not only did Hunter not register under FARA, his uncle, Jim Biden, didn't, and the president, Joe Biden, did not either. And they all had their hands in the pie. So this is it's going to be interesting in the next couple of days. Last week, there was a TPUSA Presidential Candidates Forum, and I think that Vivek Ramaswamy had the best take on why the Department of Justice and the government is dragging their feet on prosecution, because it seems so transparently easy to prosecute Hunter Biden, Jim Biden, Joe Biden, impeachable offenses bordering on treason.
Mhm.
And they're dragging their feet, not because they're playing favorites, not because this is some kind of humiliation ritual, but they're holding it in the back pocket until it's politically expedient to use it as ammunition against Joe, because they don't want him to be the candidate because he is so bad.
Well, and people have short-term memories, so they're probably correct in waiting. They got to time it just right so that it's close enough to the primary that it's effective, yet people don't forget about it.
Exactly.
If they bust him now, I mean, you got plenty of time for people to forget about it.
Yeah.
Even with the help of the mainstream media, who won't report on it and will try and sink it, they've still got to time it right.
Exactly. Timing is everything with something.
And they're
like
not timing it to help the GOP. I mean, don't get me wrong. No, they're timing it to, Newsom has been making more and more appearances, it seems. So I'm thinking you're right, and that's going to be their anointed one.
Either him or Michelle Obama. I'm still leaning towards Michelle Obama. I think that she's going to come out as the reluctant, oh, I didn't want to, but I have to. That's going to be the shtick that they're going to use to try and shtick. It's Michelle Obama,
first trans president. Yeah, and Ed Bax, they're going to launch around primary season and install Newsom. Yeah, it gives them an out to get rid of Kamala and not lose face on getting rid of Kamala then too.
Yep.
Because that's a big problem for him, is Kamala.
Yeah.
I mean, almost as much as Joe.
Yeah. And speaking of Michelle Obama, or the Obamas in general, did you hear about what happened off the coast of Martha's Vineyard?
Oh, their chef drowned.
Yes. Tragic paddleboarding accident.
Once again, feeding into a stereotype.
Yeah. Feeding into a stereotype is one thing that a lot of people, it was something that popped into my head because I'm uncouth that way. But apparently the big internet conspiracy theory was that he accidentally walked in on Michelle Obama in a changing room or something and saw the dong. And it's like he's seen too much.
See too much. Yeah, that it just seems so weird. They're still hanging around their former chef. I mean, did they keep him on staff when?
Yeah.
So he's been their chef this whole time since.
Yeah, he was the chef in the White House, and when they moved out of the White House, he went with them.
Yeah, that's you could come up with all sorts of theories on that one. I mean, love triangle, saw Big Mike's dong. I mean, who knows what could be going on there.
Yep.
Just happened to be a black man who couldn't swim. That's also a possibility too. You never know.
Yeah, Occam's razor comes to the rescue. Black guy paddle boarding, shit happens.
Yeah, I have to check out some.
Oh, Lord have mercy. It's just, I mean, are the Obamas going to be
the next Clintons? They're going to be the next Clintons. Just everybody connected to the Obamas are going to start dying.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be. Let's see. What's the next story here? Oh yeah.
We got Twitter, or not Twitter anymore.
X.
It's the dumbest thing.
Apparently, Elon has this obsession with the letter X that goes back to at least the mid-90s.
Well, what'd they say? He registered the X.com website when he was like 16 or something. He's been trying to.
He's been trying to get this. Yeah, been trying to get this X thing going. He wants it to be an everything app. Wants it to be social media, video hosting, live streaming, banking, payment processing. It's like it'll be like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, PayPal all rolled into one.
A video game system called an Xbox, maybe. Oh wait, that's
That one's already been done. Bill Gates beat you to the punch.
Yeah, which by the way, it seems like, I mean, you think he would have checked on it a little better, but it seems like there's all sorts of patents already filed for X.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, Zuckerberg had one pertaining to X and social media, which he must have been a profit on that one.
Yeah, he's that's what the fight's all about. The cage fight. They're battling for the honor of X.
I don't know. Twitter, are you using it much anymore?
Twitter?
Yeah.
No, I tried there for a few weeks. I can't get into it. I cannot. Like, Simon messages me on Twitter every once in a while. I'll get on there and look something up, but other than messaging Simon or just like doing a quick search for newsworthy events that I hear somewhere else, yeah, I'm hardly on it.
So Progressive Addicts still on there hardcore? Do you know? I mean, have they moved over to something else yet? Or, I mean, that was the progressive swamp for them to sit in their echo chambers.
Yeah, there's still plenty of lefties over there. They whine.
Microsoft already owns X for financial services. Yeah, it sounds like, I don't know. It seems like Elon gets these ideas and pulls the trigger on him, and he doesn't have a guy to tell him, slow your roll, buddy.
Yeah, I don't know. He's, like I said, his obsession with the letter X goes back to the 90s. It seems to me that he's just like this autistic nerd that.
Well, I mean, obviously, if his dream as a kid was to I didn't sit around as a teenager and think about, man, I really want to start a website with the everything app. I mean, has this been his whole dream? This whole time was X.com.
Yeah. Yeah, it has been. He's been on this X thing since he was a young man, and you saw what he named his kid.
X.
Yeah, XAE12. Yeah, it's like I said, he's like an autistic nerd that thinks that the letter X is edgy and refuses to grow up. It's like late 90s internet culture.
It was in the late 90s. I mean, that's why Xbox went with the Xbox. I mean, Microsoft went to Xbox. Ooh, X.
Yeah, exactly.
The Generation X, suck it.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It's late 90s edge culture, and he never outgrew it.
I can't blame him. The 90s were kind of the peak for me. It seems like it's that way for a lot of people. Look nostalgically at the 90s at this point, the way people used to look at 50s as the golden age of America. 90s are up there now.
Well, remember what Agent Smith said in the Matrix movie, that the Matrix was built around the peak of human civilization in 1999.
Who would have known?
And looking back at it, yeah, 2000 is when things really started to go downhill, didn't they?
Yeah, I saw a story about Musk today, and we might talk about it a little bit. Mitch McConnell, did you see that?
The glitch in the Mitch?
Yeah, the glitch in the Mitch. Musk said we need a constitutional amendment, and people, it was a seizure is what he had. I mean, we need to get some of these old people in there. Feinstein today also, she seems like she forgot where she was at, so the senator sitting next to her told her just vote yes.
Yeah.
It's crazy. One theory we had at work that the whole X thing is to kill Threads. I think Threads killed itself at this point.
I was just about to say Threads twisted itself into a noose and hung itself from the rafters.
I mean, the media tried. They were pushing it for a good week, how it was the hot new thing. They got all these users, blah, blah, blah. And then, you start seeing screenshots of the people's Threads experience. They were just being bombarded with ads, and that was it. I think Threads is already done at this point.
Yeah, and then when they found out that in order to get rid of Threads, you also had to delete your entire Instagram,
Oh
people were like,
shit.
"Man, I'm not signing up for that shit." And then
Ties it
Threads
right
fell
into
off.
your Instagram. Jeez.
Yeah.
I didn't even check that one out. I don't care to.
Nope.
It was such an obvious media shill echo chamber. It's like, why even bother going in there? And
Yeah.
I kind of want to get into this a little bit, but I don't know how to work it in. Did you see where Peacock streaming was losing 651 million over 3 months?
No, but it doesn't surprise me. Big media has been driving itself off a cliff for years now.
The previous quarter, they lost 700 million. They're looking to lose 3 billion this year.
Jesus Christ.
It all goes back to when this mainstream media got untethered from cable. For a while they were just, I didn't even look at it this way, and I started thinking about it. This goes into that whole thing where I've talked about how Hollywood has been just, in the tech industry, it's just been a money laundering scam for progressive causes. Think about it. The cable companies they lobbied to make the cable companies be required to carry these channels, right? So it was basically a tax on people who had no interest in giving money to Hollywood. They're being forced to pay it through their cable bill, and they were just floating along with these fake successful companies because they're getting all this money from having their media forced on everybody. So now once everybody started canceling their cable, they started getting upside down. We've had the last 30 years. I mean, we've had a whole fake industry on the West Coast, and it's just starting to fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about all the money that's been pumped into them for the last 30 years because people were forced to pay for channels they had no interest in watching.
It's an interesting way of thinking about it. Now, streaming services, you can
Yeah.
get.
Now they
what
got to
you
survive
want.
They got to survive on their own merit. Nobody wants that shit.
Yeah.
It's having a trickle down effect.
Yeah, the old cable packages, it's like you get cable because you want, ESPN and HBO, and then there's 400 channels that you never even think about going to because it's full of nothing, but you're still paying for it because it's part of the
Paying
cable
for it,
bundle.
and they're paying people to make stuff for it that nobody's watching. It was just a whole fake industry.
It's like the ghost villages in China.
Yeah, but we had ghost progressive companies.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the fallout, I mean, I'm curious if we'll see it in this next election. But I mean, the fallout has got to start showing up at some point. This writer strike going on, nobody cares.
I'd care more if they sucked less.
Oh, right. I mean, I'm curious to see how much Disney has lost.
I heard somewhere that over the last 8 releases that they've lost upwards of $900 million.
So think about it. When that stuff was successful, all that money was going to massive industries with thousands of people not doing shit.
Or doing
voting and donating.
Garbage. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. One of the things that's going to make the Disney model in recent years fall apart is going to be what they call scrapbooking, which is the way that they've been making these movies for I want to say like since 2013, 2014, right around when The Force Awakens came out. After they bought Lucasfilm, they decided to start going with this method of of making movies called scrapbooking, where they just had a bunch of ideas storyboarded out, and they filmed all of these different scenes, and then they play tested the scenes to random audiences, and then whichever scenes tested good, they would stitch them together and then make a movie out of it, and then use editing to make it make sense, sort of. So really what they're doing is, the reason these Hollywood budgets are ballooning up into like $300-400 million is because they're not making a movie. They're making 3, 4, 5 movies and then making one movie out of it. And that's why this Indiana Jones movie that just came out, people say there's a lot of shit that doesn't make sense, is because they did the scrapbooking. And because people were leaking information about the god awful plot, they had to go back and do a ton of reshoots. So then they just basically made a whole other movie right there. So now it's like the most expensive movie ever made, and it's going to lose millions, hundreds of millions.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I saw a trailer I think it was last weekend, for some movie called the Marvels, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, let's make a movie about 3 characters nobody wants. The plot looked terrible. I don't know.
Yeah, it might be terrible. It's probably going to be terrible, but then you look at Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't know Guardians of the Galaxy was a Marvel property or even a comic book, and that movie was great.
Mm-hmm.
So, could work out, could not. But, it depends on the writers, I guess.
Well, I mean, the last movie with what's her face? I don't remember her name. The blonde chick that played Carol Danvers' character. That didn't do well. And then you had Disney had a series with the younger Miss Marvel, who's named Kamala. That did terrible. So it's like, how do they get the math to think, oh, this will be a movie people want to see?
I don't know. Maybe it was like if you take 2 piles of shit and put them in a blender.
2 negatives make a positive.
Yeah. There you go. It's even better. Math.
And they had Secret Wars on Disney. I heard that was a flop. I saw that somebody commented, Monica Rambeau's power is she can see light. Oh well, me too.
Scientific Libertarian says he's disappointed in us. He got the second Facebook notification that we were live. Have we ever been to Facebook jail this year? No, but Nathan is back making memes for us. So
I don't know why
I
don't know why Facebook let us out of the naughty box, but they did. The algorithm's been picking us up again. And, if you don't follow our Facebook page, if you're watching this on something else, it's worth it. I mean, even if you think our memes suck, it's worth it just to see the I have no idea why so many raving progressives follow our page and want to comment on every single thing we post.
Yeah, go in there, get in the chats, start an argument, drive the numbers up.
I mean, God bless them for helping us out, but they cannot resist commenting on everything we put out there. So it's weird. It just happened one day. Nathan posted a couple things and off we go. We're back in the algorithm.
I know. He's like, I'm back, baby. And Nathan's gone from being your basic party line libertarian to being more of a Deus Vult Hans Hermann Hoppe type of libertarian crusader.
I don't think he started calling them Lulbertarians yet, but he's almost there.
Yeah.
I don't think he started referring to Lulberts, but I can see it any day. We should have Nathan come on and give us like a top comments of the week from all the shit that he posts, because I'm assuming he keeps up on. I can't keep up with everything that people comment back on, but I'm assuming he does.
And we've had I posted up a meme that I made about the Jason Aldean thing, and it was actually a GIF meme too. I made a GIF meme, which was kind of neat. But I posted it up in another group, and I had like 9 people ask me for it. So I'm like, hey, why don't you go on over to Roads to Liberty and give us a follow? And they're like, okay.
So either that or the FBI asked them to open it up because they needed to increase their honeypot dragnet a little bit more.
Well, nobody comments from the people that the FBI want to dragnet. It's just a bunch of like cranky progressives that are like, oh, it's none of your business what other people do. Like, I didn't say that it was. You're free to do whatever you want, and I'm free to call you a degenerate weirdo for doing it. That's right. What freedom is, baby.
Well, should we dive into international stuff? I used to get a lot of reach arguing vaccines, but everybody stops giving a shit. I may have to move on to glyphosate. You might have more luck with that one, actually. The vaccine argument, I don't care what side you're on. People are sick of it. Whatever. whatever your stance is. Uh, international stuff.
Oh, before we get into that, we got
Oh.
aliens.
Oh, did you watch any of that?
I caught a few clips, and I think
was
it's a psyop.
shitty. Yeah, same. That one guy. I mean, we've dealt with enough glowies that one. I mean, he is a glowy technically, but what was his name? Grush.
Yeah.
Obvious plant, just throwing weird shit out there.
Yeah, I think that he was telling the truth as far as he knew it.
Really? I thought he was just feeding bullshit the whole time.
No, I think somebody fed him bullshit knowing that he would go and whistleblow. So I think that he thinks he's being honest because all of his answers weren't like, I've seen the spacecraft, I've seen the bodies, I've seen that. It's like, I heard it from somebody. I have, confidential informants and all the, it's all secondhand information. It's like, talking around the water cooler and stuff with somebody who's seen the bodies and done the dissections and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, dude, you've been fed a line of shit because they knew you were a gullible prat who was going to come out and blow the whistle on it.
Yeah. What if this guy is just that dude at work that everybody hates? They're just like, let's see what we can get him to go to Congress with. Like sending him to look for a grid square or something, or
right, exactly.
Left-handed wrench.
Yeah. Let's just get him on C-SPAN to make a complete ass out of himself.
The other guy I found way more credible. The old guy, the retired Navy guy, who said he'd actually seen stuff with his own eyes, like the flying Tic Tacs that keep popping up.
Mm-hmm.
I found him way more credible. The timing on it was a little suspect too, which I saw in that Dan Bongino video, and I didn't think about at the time, but yeah, the timing's a little suspect.
Yeah, I saw a meme yesterday that was you remember the poster that hung up behind Agent Mulder in the X-Files with the UFO? It says, "I want to believe."
Yeah,
this one was, "I wanted to believe until the government told me they were real."
McCarthy had a good one too. He said he didn't believe there are that the Defense Department had found aliens because if they had, they'd be asking for more money. It's like, yeah, fair enough.
Exactly. I think that all of these UFOs or UAPs or whatever the fuck that they want to call them these days, I think that these are us. They're either our government or they are private corporations. And Bongino went over this today too. He's like, if you had a company like Raytheon and they were developing something like this, crazy drone technology or, any of the weird things that these things do, and it crashed in a test flight, you wouldn't want another company or another country to know that you've got technology that's capable of doing this. So you're like, oh, must be aliens, must be a UFO, blah, blah, blah.
Did they finally find the dog the Russians shot into space?
I don't know. I didn't know we were looking for it.
Yeah, so I don't, and some of the footage, I can't explain it. Especially where they're talking about some of those orbs, camera. I have no idea what that shit is, but I didn't. Some of the stuff said at that meeting, like, oh yeah, somebody told me they have alien bodies, and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. A lot of this stuff, they're like, no human could survive the G-forces of a maneuver that fast. It's like, yeah, it's because there's nobody in it. It's a drone.
Right.
These things are pretty common.
Speaking of drones, you want to get on Ukraine here, which is a total drone war at this point. I saw the latest threat from the Ukraine on why they need more weapons is the title of the article was "Give us more weapons to cut mass migration to Europe," says Ukraine.
It sounds like a threat.
Yeah, kinda. And what is it? Cluster bombs aren't violations of the treaties of war, I guess at this point. Well, the beginning of this, they were bad. Now they're fine.
It's okay when we do it.
Yeah, which we have been doing it. We're one of the few countries that haven't signed any treaties that disallow us from using them.
Good. Hollow points and napalm for everybody.
Yep. Well, and the main reason why cluster munitions are banned is because they have problems with civilians picking them up afterwards. If you've seen the pictures of the cluster munitions before, I mean, they look like little firework toys. I could see why.
A friend of mine got part of his foot blown off in Iraq in the initial invasion by kicking
By
one.
a cluster munition, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why they're banned. I mean, yeah, we shouldn't be doing it. So if we're this whole stupid thing, it always looks like World War One. We're in trench warfare. This is what happened in World War One too. One guy used gas, and they're, well, I'm going to use gas. You know, what is it in 3 or 4 months from now, if this is still going on? Russia's going to start using gas. So then we decide, all right, well, let's send Ukraine some gas.
Ukraine's already using gas.
Yeah, I've seen that story. It's been said. Yeah.
Yeah, and to just really put it on the nose, they're using Zyklon B.
I was gonna say don't be Zyklon B, but
it's Zyklon B.
They just had some laying around.
Yeah, imagine that.
Who knows where that came from? Next to a whole pile of pills that they've been using to keep their troops going, I'm sure.
Pervitin to the rescue.
So
it's like in our Civil War, our troops were eating hardtack that was commissioned during our Revolutionary War. In the Ukraine war, they're using Pervitin and Zyklon B in this war that was commissioned during the Second World War. So, some of these things have a surprisingly long shelf life.
I guess. Shit. So I saw that story about the Zyklon, so that was proven, or is it okay?
Yeah.
Well, I guess Russia will be launching that at them next.
Maybe.
But another thing out of Poland banned Ukrainian grain imports because it was flooding their market, and apparently they have nowhere else to sell it. They can't get it out of their port, so they're flooding it into Europe. And based Poland is like, no, we're not going to sell your grain here because we need to have some food security. We need to support our own farmers and make sure we can feed ourselves. So don't sell your grain here and send our farmers under.
Yeah, and when the war kicked off, the fear was that this was going to cause a food scarcity issue, but now it's causing like a market glut or something. It's weird how that works.
Well, in European countries, I guess Africa is kind of fucked because they used to get a lot of grain from Ukraine. So we'll see how that plays out for them. Mm-hmm. But that Africa doesn't have any. Well, this kind of ties into why Poland didn't want grain in their country. We drop all this free grain in Africa for the past 30 years. So how successful are their farmers going to be? Not very. When Joe in the mud hut can get it for free, why is he going to buy it off a farmer? So Africa's agricultural industry is ruined after 30 years of free grain.
Just like all government handouts, breeds
yeah.
dependency.
So they've been relying on Ukraine for their grain, and that's drying up. So we'll see how that goes. That's all I have out of the Ukraine this week.
Good.
You wanted to hit on China, right?
Oh, this is something that Simon sent me today. So apparently the United States got permission to send a Coast Guard cutter to be stationed in a port in Papua New Guinea.
Okay.
And it was going to be jointly manned by a U.S. and Papua New Guinea crew. It was, it's like they were celebrating it as, this extension of U.S. diplomatic relations. We got a ship and Papua New Guinea's going to help us crew it, and everybody's lovey-dovey and getting along, and that was supposed to be some big diplomatic win or whatever. And then today, China and Indonesia came out with a very big security agreement that blows this one single Coast Guard cutter story to smithereens. The way Simon put it was that it would be like if we were fighting over Cuba and China got all of Cuba and we maintained control of Guantanamo Bay. That, because Papua New Guinea is like right on the end of the Indonesian archipelago. So China basically just took over Indonesia with their security agreements, and we get one boat in Papua New Guinea. And so the thing that bothers me about this is that for the past 20 some odd years, the United States has been leveraging threats to other countries. That has been our main diplomatic approach.
Yeah, RFK Jr. brought this up, right?
Yeah. That seems to be all we can do is swing the hammer around. We got this big military. We got the best trained, best equipped soldiers in the world, and we've got the world's reserve currency, and we're the world's largest economy. We're just swinging these cudgels around, and the rest of the world is getting sick and tired of it. Meanwhile, China is out there building roads, building dams, building bridges, and yes, it's a trap. Yes, it's a white elephant gift. Yes, they're going to colonize you by doing it, but that old adage still holds true that you can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar.
Mm-hmm.
We're out there spraying vinegar like it's going out of style, and China is making infrastructure investments.
Well, and the big thing, they've been making infrastructure investments in themselves, whereas United States is in shambles in most of their infrastructure. I mean, every city, I'm being on city council, a lot of these newsletters, and, all sizes of cities, their infrastructure is crumbling. It was built in the, during the 40s and the 20s, and it's falling apart. And, these small, at a city level, you don't have the money to repair all of that. You're just kind of, you're kind of triaging which water mains are closest to blowing up this budget cycle.
Yeah. I'm reminded of a story about how a water main in, I think it was Boston, one of America's oldest cities, it was clogged up, needed replaced or whatever. So they dug into the street to get to this water line. And when they found it, it was wood. It was a log that they had hollowed out and were using as, this was like 250-year-old wooden water line that finally had given out. And they're like, holy shit.
And you might be thinking, well, if it works, don't fix it. But no, it's way more expensive to fix that stuff in an emergency than to just be like, all right, let's replace the water lines in the street, as opposed to digging up one section at a time as it goes rotten.
Yeah.
And, the disruptions for the people too, who knows what that could cause. But yeah, China's been keeping their infrastructure up. Meanwhile, and every time America gets into some dumb shit like, Afghanistan, Iraq, and now Ukraine, I think, China's just sitting over there doing their thing, we're spending, how many billions have we dumped into Ukraine?
Probably like 168 to 200 by now.
Yeah. So
Ridiculous
that's money we could have been spent on America, and China's been spending that money on themselves this whole time.
And on other people doing good work for other countries. One of the things China is investing $50 billion in infrastructure in Pakistan. And what was it? The other one that Simon told me today was there's five, I think he said 5 nations are applying to become members of BRICS. And the one that I think that Brazil was wanting to fast track the most was Argentina. But Argentina has a debt load to the United States of $100 billion that would preclude them from making a deal with BRICS or becoming a BRICS nation. And then I said, $100 billion is a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not when you're dealing with countries that deal in trillions. And Simon says, yeah, you're right. $100 billion is 2 or 3 months of the trade surplus that China has with the United States. So essentially, if China wanted to buy out Argentina's debt to the United States, the United States could subsidize that purchase. So we're just giving China and Argentina the rope with which to hang us because we have these trade surpluses.
That's the other thing. I mean, we've got all South America down there, and I don't think we do shit for them besides try and install puppet governments. I mean, you never hear about, maybe we help them clean up their countries and we wouldn't have so many border issues. That's so easy to answer right there. They're coming to America because their countries are turning into shitholes because probably from American policies, but I don't know enough about South American intricacies. I don't know if Simon's in on that. He's more about the Asian sphere, but it'd be interesting to ask him about that sometime.
Right. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, why their countries are such shitholes that they're leaving. I mean, I read a story yesterday about, I think it was in Ecuador. Some mayor in a major city in Ecuador was touring American cities where a large amount of Ecuadorians live and trying to get them to send money back so they could do infrastructure improvements in Ecuador.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's spend 150 billion down in South America and earn some goodwill, but no.
Right. And the thing is that we've been doing it for so long that anytime the United States does something like that, to say that we're going to extend this olive branch of goodwill, it always is done with the specter that there are strings attached to it. And the problem in South America is one of two things. Either the United States has meddled in their politics and the population at large is resentful, or two, during the Cold War, the communists got involved down there and people keep voting for socialism because they keep thinking that it's going to work this time. So that turns the country into a shithole. And rather than just letting it fall apart, which it will eventually, the United States thinks they have to come in with their swinging dick diplomacy and install some type of a puppet that makes the people down there resentful and hateful. And so then they vote for socialism even harder, and it just makes things even worse. You have this blowback, this compounding error that just keeps making these countries down there worse and worse, where if the United States, when they saw these communist or socialist uprisings taking place down there, the wise long game approach to that would be to take a hands-off approach, to sit back and be like, we're not going to militarily invade you, we're not going to try and overthrow your government, we're not going to put economic sanctions on you or any of that stuff. We will trade with you. We will sell you anything that you can afford. And it's going to take a lot longer for your country to fall apart, but it will fall apart because socialism and communism always fails.
I know. What are we trying to prove at this point? So they want to go communism. Let them. It'll fail.
Right.
I mean, it's been proven over and over again.
One of my favorite conservative commentators is a guy named Bill Whittle, and he said that the best way to assuage someone of the idea of communism is to give it to them good and hard.
Well, and what country is El Salvador, or who recently elected tough on? Yeah, I mean, he's showing that you can be a conservative and work in South America. He seems like he's turning his country around, so the other countries around him are going to see that.
Exactly.
I mean, we should be supporting that guy, helping him out, showing how that shit works. But no.
Right. The United States, its greatest strength right up until the end of World War II, when we became like the world's sole hegemon, right up until the end of the Cold War, was that our greatest strength is that we led by example. You can be like us if you follow our lead. You don't have to be an imperial power. You don't have to saber rattle at your neighbors and all of this other stuff. Just open your markets and open the brain trust of your society and let it run loose. And in that post World War II period, 50% of the world's wealth was in the United States.
Mhm.
But so was almost 100% of technological advancements. So was a giant chunk of world industry. Just about medical, everything came from the United States right up until the end of the Cold War, when we sat fat and happy as the number one hegemon, and we decided that, hey, we're the big dog on the pile. Now it's time to start flexing. And that's when things went downhill.
Yeah, and I've seen multiple studies that have shown that, India is going to be the next big dog just because of demographics.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, China's got an aging population that, it's a time bomb, is what some people have said. They completely fucked themselves. Their government controls on the one child policy, and now they can't turn it around. And we've not completely alienated India, but we haven't tried much to work with them. I mean, they buy Russian. I think Russia's their main trading partner, aren't they? Or I can't remember on that one.
Yeah, and it looked like we were moving really heavily in a good diplomatic relationship with them. Trump and Modi. They were they were homies, right?
Yeah.
And
Trump is still really popular in India. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
He's still a major celebrity over there. But and you talk about how selling the American example. I mean, you've got such a shitty example to sell people. Who wants to buy this crap?
Exactly.
An empire of lies at this point. It's becoming so apparent how sold out the media is, and most branches of the government. The system we would try to show works is a shit show. There's anybody would want that.
No, our example right now is a terrible example. Be like the United States and turn into gay communists. No, thank you.
I mean, obviously Chinese communism works a lot better than the degeneracy communism. So you don't want to compete in that market.
Yeah.
Scientific libertarian. Biden doesn't want to take the immigrants fleeing overtly socialist countries because they'll vote against an overtly socialist country. Yes. Usually how it works.
Yep. Just look at the Cubans down in Miami. They're the most hardcore conservatives that you'll find.
I wish and another China thing I wish we'd asked Simon about this is their foreign minister disappeared. Did you see that after the meeting with Blinken?
Mm-hmm.
Gone. I mean, he got Stalined. They erased him from the internet.
Yeah, Simon actually talked to me about something about that tonight. I guess he was like having an affair or something, and that made the party look bad. Gone. Yeah.
I mean, I doubt they executed him, but he's living in a village now, I'm sure, on the border of Mongolia.
Probably.
And that was interesting how, I mean, the government of the United States would love to be canceled completely. I mean, everything deleted off the internet. That's their wet dream, I'm sure. Go against the narrative in America, canceled, no bank accounts. Your existence is erased off the internet.
Well, that's what we're moving towards with the CBDCs. That's eventually what they want to move towards. And did you see the thing with the orb?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I think it was in Madrid or Barcelona. Do you remember the orb pondering memes?
Oh yeah,
popular.
Yeah.
Well, this has nothing to do with the orb pondering memes, but there's this company setting up a digital ID and a cryptocurrency called WorldCoin. And
I already hate it.
Yeah, already hate it. And in order to sign up for this, you get your digital ID, and in order to get your digital ID, they have these silver orbs, very ominous, very fucking Lord of the Rings Palantir like. And you go up to them and you put your hand on them, and they scan your fingerprints, and you look into the orb, you ponder the orb, and it scans your irises, and your digital ID is born.
Available to be canceled at any time. That's in Spain doing that?
Yeah, they're rolling it out in Spain.
What type of fucked up country is Spain? You haven't heard much about Spain since the 1600s. That's when they peaked.
I guess so. Well, I mean,
lost their fleet to England, and that was it.
yep, all downhill from there. Yeah, look up WorldCoin and the digital ID rollout, and I'm pretty sure it was Spain, Madrid, or maybe Barcelona.
Which should I hate more, WorldCoin or the BlackRock ETF Bitcoin?
I am pretty sure they're all connected. But I got some shit to do, so
yeah, we got Imperial. We got a couple quick comments. Imperial chain code, anyone? The new conquistadors suck. Yeah, we're at an hour, anyways. We should see what Simon knows about South America. That might be interesting to pick his brain on.
Yeah, I'll shoot him a message. He said he could come on tonight if we wanted him to come on, but he also said he was going to be binge watching The Witcher. So
you gotta have priorities, man.
Yes.
So yeah, thanks for joining us, everybody. Good comments tonight. Go if you're on YouTube, go like our Facebook page. If you're on Rumble, go check out our Facebook since we're unzucked in the algorithm. Feel free to comment and own the left with logic, I guess. So next week,
your inner Ben Shapiro.
We'll be back next week, same time, same day. And always stay honky.